Hello, everyone. Hi, and welcome to class number 4, part 2 of Spirit Communication and Development. And we're not beginners anymore. We're going on to the advanced class. So I hope that so far you have learned a lot. And if you are starting with this class, you might want to go back and take the other 3 classes that are at the beginning. If you feel like you have a pretty good handle on what your dominant ability is, and you have had some success in communicating with spirit, and you also have a daily practice in place, then you're fine to start with this class, because this is kind of an advanced class and we'll be kind of expanding our abilities from here. So it's good to just have the basics down. You can always, if you get lost in the class, you can always go back and take the other classes and then start this one again. So I'd like to begin by first thanking you for allowing me to guide you along this journey, because it is an ever-expanding journey. It never just stays in one place. You'll always be learning, you'll always be growing, you'll always be changing. So it's a very fun and exciting little adventure. And so thank you for having me be your guide during this time. We're going to kind of start with a couple of issues that people were having, and they were common throughout when I was doing my mentoring sessions. So I took those problems and questions people had, and I thought it would be a good place to start here, because if you're having those same issues, it could answer those questions right away, and then you can move on. So I'm going to start by answering some questions, and then we're going to talk about some of the blocks that have been blocking people in communicating. And then we're going to go on to some tips and 3 new exercises that we'll be doing together. And the exercises will help you to kind of open up and expand your abilities. So that will be really exciting. Now, one of the common questions that I kept getting throughout my mentoring sessions, it was very consistent, was, would my guides ever ignore me? Would my guides not answer me? Would my guides ever walk away from me, get sick of me, asking the same questions? And I want to assure you that the answer is a resounding no. Now, all of these classes, from this one to all the way back to the very beginning, are all channeled information. So I don't give anything to you in the classes that I haven't either okayed with spirit first or gotten straight from my guides. So a lot of this information is straight from the source, from my guides. So I want to tell you that absolutely not. Your guides are never tired of you, sick of you. They'll always try to answer you. They'll always try to give you guidance when you ask for it. And they'll definitely never leave you. They'll never walk away from you. I have had people say, I feel like my guides have abandoned me because I can't hear them, or I can't connect with them. When you're first beginning, sometimes I think people expect really big things to happen. So if you go in with no expectations at all of kind of what you're going to get, just be open. Because a lot of times, especially when you're starting, the contacts might be kind of small. And a part of that is to, because that is kind of the way that it is, it's meant to be subtle so that it doesn't disrupt us in our life. But it's also not to overwhelm us when we're first having these experiences. They don't want to startle us or scare us or anything like that. So a lot of the communication will be very subtle. So I want to assure you that no, they would not walk away from you. They would not leave you, and they won't ignore you. They always want to communicate with you. One of the ways I'd like to explain to you how guides work, and this might make it a little more understandable, because I think sometimes people think, well, are my guides just following me around all the time, just waiting for me to ask questions? How could that be? How could they just be following me around? That isn't the way it works. And the way that I got this information was not only from my own readings and from my own experiences, but I also know that this is channeled information from a very famous channeler, Jane Roberts, who channeled all of the Seth books. Eckhart Tolle a spiritual teacher, Dolores Cannon, Edgar Casey talks about this. But when you are a spirit, or when you're a guide, you're able to divide up your concentration in a very different way than we do here on Earth. And I will kind of explain it by the way we do it here so that I can show you kind of how it works for spirit when they're dividing up their attention, so that you understand that they are probably not just your guide. They're probably working on with many other people and on many other projects and many other things that they're doing, but they're able to divide up their time and concentration in a way that's very different than we do. And let me give you an example. If you are sitting in a room and you're writing a letter, you can be writing the letter and get very involved in the letter, and all of your attention is in the letter. But when you're doing that, you're never unaware that you're in a room. And it's not as if you lose track and forget where you are. You always know that you're in a room. There's a part of you that knows that. And then if there's a knock at the door, your attention would completely come out of the letter that you were completely absorbed in, and your attention would move to the door. So take that example and divide up that example in up to 100 or 1,000. But that's how guides work. So think of them doing something or working with someone, and then you ask a question. That's like the knock at the door. Immediately, a part of their attention will move to the door. But they still have the ability to keep working on that letter and go to the door, and divide that up again by like 100 or 1,000, because that's what our guides are capable of doing. It's hard to understand here because we're very limited with our the senses that we have and the way that our world works. It's just being in a physical world is very, very different, and it's very slow, and it's very limited in the way that you can interact and absorb information and all of these things. It's because we just have only the senses that we have. And when you open up to spirit, you're opening up not only your sixth sense, another sense, but you're opening up to a world that's very, very different and much more flexible and much more fluid. Ours tends to be very one way. So that's how this works. And so it may be a little more understandable and a little more believable that your guides can turn all of their attention to you, and they can still be dividing their attention in other ways. So they're always available to you. Question number 2 that I got again and again and again is, I think I got a message, but I'm not sure. How do I know that I got a message? Because I'm not sure if I did. I think I did. Maybe I did. So let me just tell you, 100% of the time when I got this concern and this question, what I found when I worked with the person was, yes, indeed, they got a message. They're just questioning it. And questioning it is very human. It's a very human thing to do. It's a very when you're a skeptic, it's a very human thing to do. So don't be upset with yourself or annoyed with yourself that you question it, because that is a common thing to do. What I will tell you is a couple of things about knowing if you got a message. First of all, it's going to feel like you. And I talk about this a little bit in the first classes, but it does bear repeating, so I will repeat it. It will feel like your emotions, your feelings. They'll use your physical body. They'll give you chills, an ache or a pain to illustrate something. They'll give you something that might feel like dizziness or lightheadedness when they're around. There'll be physical cues. They'll use your imagination. They'll use your thinking, your senses. They'll use your memory bank to speak to you. So it was going to feel like you when you're being used as the tool to communicate with. So know that it's going to feel like you. So that's number 1, okay? And that's why it can be confusing. The other thing that I want to tell you is that if you do think you got a message, 99.9% of the time you did, okay? It's going to be very human to think, was that a message? Was that something, or was I just thinking? What I would tell you, and we'll talk about this a little bit later, because this has to do with faith and trust. So when you're working in this way and you have that question of, did I just get a message? Try not to do that questioning while you're in the mode of asking the question. When you're in your meditation or when you're speaking with your guides, try to put that aside until later. Later on, you can look at that and you can analyze and whatever. But when you do that during the time you're asking the question and looking at it, you kind of rob yourself of that sensation of knowing that's what just happened. In the moment, there's going to be something that tells you this is something different. This is something that's not quite me. I can't put my finger on it, but it feels different. Or there might be that instantaneous, just like, was that a message? In that moment, just let it be. Let it be. Just feel it. What did it feel like? What was the sensation? How did it feel? Remember it. And then later on, you can look at it. But in the moment, try to keep that clear. Okay? Because first of all, most of the time, in fact, in every case that I worked on with my in my mentoring sessions, 100% of the time they had gotten a message. They were just questioning it. So really, really try to begin to trust what you're getting. And we'll talk a little bit about that a little bit later. Okay, so we're going to expand and talk about a couple of the blocks that people have been getting that have been stopping them from communicating or just impeding their communication. So we'll go to that next. Okay, so one of the blocks that people are having is faith. Being able to have faith in what's happening. Being able to have faith that their guides will answer, that somebody is listening, that they're going to have communication. The best advice I can give you for this is that faith is kind of a fake it till you make it situation. When you're working with your guides or when you're working with a spirit, the best thing you can do is to, in that moment, when you're asking, when you're talking to spirit, try to put all of your doubts, questions, analyzing, doubting, put all of that aside. Pretend that you believe all of it. Pretend that you know your guides are going to come through. If you're not quite there yet, pretend that you know your relative or your friend on the other side is waiting to hear from you and wants to communicate with you. When you do this, something opens up. And that's why this is so important and why it's such a block for some people. Now, I'm not asking you to be fooled, to be a fool. What I'm asking you is, in the moment, just pretend that you believe this. Pretend that you believe all of it without any doubt. In a way, it's kind of like fake your faith until you can build it on experience. Because when you are faithful, when you have faith, when you believe, something opens up. It's not a matter of fooling yourself. It's a matter of being open to the experience. When you're in this kind of closed feeling of doubt and looking at every little thing and trying to disrupt the process in some way, it really does a disservice to the communication process. It stops the flow of communication. It holds it up. Think of it as putting up a stop sign of some kind, because what you're doing is you're kind of closing yourself off in a way when you are completely faithful and just open to receive, which is what you want to be at all times. And it's very hard to do at all times, but that is the goal, is to be open to receive completely to whatever may come in. When you're in that mode, you're so much more likely to have an experience that's bigger and more pronounced than if you're closed, questioning, worrying, not sure. Be open. There isn't anything to be afraid of. There isn't anything to be worried about. There isn't anything to to be skeptical about in that moment. You're just asking a question, and you're being open enough to receive the answer. That's all you're trying to do. We're going to talk a little bit at the end about protecting yourself, and that will also give you the confidence to open up in a way that is very trusting. So that leads us to our next block. So we'll talk about that too. Okay, the second most common block that people were having was trust. Trusting that they are getting a message, trusting it is their guides, trusting it is the spirit they're trying to communicate with. There needs to be a level of trust. And yes, trust is kind of built, and that is something that happens. But what we're asking you to do, when I say we, I mean my guides and I, what we're asking you to do is to be open enough to trust yourself. Because what you can do is when you're talking to your guides, talking to spirit, and you're trying to receive the messages back, you're opening up to do that. When you think you've got something, leave it at that. Don't go right away in and analyze it and look at it and pull it apart and start to, wipe it away. Just leave it alone. Let it just sit. Say to yourself, okay, I think that was something. Even if you're not quite sure, I think that is something. Thank you. I think I heard you. What that does, again, is it keeps you in an open and receiving state. It also lets your guides know that when they do respond, or spirit, if you're connecting with a spirit, family member, or friend on the other side, it lets them know that you're open enough to be receptive to what you get, even if it's something small, and that you're not going to discount it right away. When you do that, what happens is that they'll try to find another way, but it may get you off in another area when you don't really want to. Because if you feel you've gotten something, let's say you're asking a question like, should I wear my mother's necklace? Let's say you're asking a relative, should I wear my mother's necklace? Okay. And you get a message that in your mind is all of a sudden you see a woman wearing a necklace. Okay. Clearly, they're telling you, yes, you should wear your mother's necklace. But maybe you might think, well, was I thinking that? Because that was the question I was asking. So is that me? What was happening just then? You can do that in the moment, but instead, notice what they're giving you and just notice it. Say, thank you, I think I got it. And later on, you can look at it and go back and see what's happening. But in that moment, if you were to cut that off and say, oh my gosh, is that me? Is that me thinking that? Is that someone else thinking? How did I think of that? Did I put that in my own mind? Once you start doing that, it cuts off the communication, because all of a sudden you're not open anymore, and you're not in a presence state of mind. You're not in the present anymore. You're up in your head somewhere, rolling around with all of these thoughts. And so your spirit may be still with you and still trying to communicate, but what you've done is you've shut yourself off. Now you're in your brain. You're in your brain rolling around thinking of all this stuff. You can do that later. In the moment, when you're asking these questions, when you think you've got something, just say thank you. Say, I think I got it, and say thank you. And then later on, you can notice, okay, how did I feel in that moment? When I very first saw that, I knew it was a message. I knew it was something. How did I receive it? Okay, well, I got a clairvoyant picture. So that is one way that this particular spirit is connecting with me, through clairvoyance. if you discount it and you start rolling around in your head and thinking of all these different things that it could be, what happens is that it makes your guides or the spirit you're trying to connect with go off in another direction. They might try to start giving you a feeling, or they might try to give you something later on. And that can, it can still be great because you can still get the message. But if you pay attention and accept that first message that you got, you've already started a way of communicating. They already know a way they can communicate with you, and you know how they're trying to communicate with you. And that breaks down so many barriers. When you go off into other areas, you can still get communicated with, and they'll still try to get the answer to you, but it may not be as natural as that first thing that happened. It may be something that they might try later, down the line, because they can't get to you any other way. But if you can be open and receive and trust that message, that first message that you got of the woman wearing the necklace, and say, okay, I think that was it. Then you can start to test, and you can start to build the vocabulary, as I say, where they'll give you symbols and signs, and it gets so much easier from there. But that is how you build on it. So we just talked about faith as being a block. Trust is a block, but trust, not so much. It's having faith in your spirit guides and your spirit family and friends. It's really trusting yourself to know and to recognize a message when you see it. Like I said, every single time when people said, I think I got a message, it was really subtle, but this is what it was. Every time their guide would come through and say, that was right. That was right. You have to start trusting that. So try to notice and trust as soon as you get a message, and then it's so much easier to build on. It doesn't mean you can't build in other ways, you can, but we're looking for the fastest, easiest, and way to get you there as possible. And this is one of the ways, and people are going around this way because they get caught up in questioning. And so trust is what I can tell you. Trust yourself to know, and trust that first instinct, that first message that you get, because that can lead you on a much quicker and much faster and easier road into connecting with your spirit loved ones, guides. Okay. I want to touch on a couple of problems that people brought up. And these were very, very common problems, and they're actually very easy to solve. So I want to give these to you right away. So if you did have these problems in the other classes, you can clear them up very quickly. And in my mentoring sessions, it was very easy to clear up. So the two common problems that people kept bringing up were that in meditation, I'm finding it hard to concentrate. And the second one was, I don't have time. I feel like I can't commit to a half an hour in the morning and a half an hour at night. Well, let me just put you at ease in telling you that the first thing about concentrating, we talked a lot about, in the first video, we talked a lot about meditation and the misconceptions about meditation, that everybody thinks the only meditation there is that quiet, silent meditation where you're just sitting quietly. And that is one of the hardest ones to master. It's a difficult thing to do, and it is a practice. It takes practice, and it really is something that you build on, and you can learn to do it. And again, we kind of go into that in the first class. But what I want to tell you is that if you have trouble concentrating, a very easy way to get spirit into your life every day, and that's what we're trying to do, is just invite your guides in, invite spirit in every day, so that you can get an easier flow going, so that you start to recognize the feel of your guides or your loved ones or a spirit. So what I do, and I do this a lot because my schedule tends to kind of fluctuate. And some days especially in allergy season, some days I'm just not up to doing a lot. So I might be in bed for a long time or whatever, or I have to take medication. So, and everybody's life is a little bit, sporadic. Sometimes you have to have a really busy day working and getting kids and all of these things, especially with the recent pandemic. A lot of people are homeschooling and things like that. So your day can be really, some days are really empty and some days are really, really full. So what I like to do is use some really mundane activities and ask my guides to come in and be with me. For me, I like to use housework because housework is one of those things that you're alert, you're at attention, and you're concentrating, but you're not really distracted by an activity. If you're doing something where you really have to think, if you're adding up numbers, it couldn't be something you do. But if you're washing you're cleaning out your fridge, or you're washing the floors or whatever, you really do have that ability to be kind of in a meditative state and be involved in the activity and alert, but not thinking. And it also keeps you in the moment. So you're in the perfect state to have your guides come in and speak to you. And this can be really helpful. And it doesn't, the other thing about time, where I don't have time, this is a way to also solve that problem as well, because the time doesn't matter. That it's the quality. It's the quality of the time. It's not the time. You could do a solid hour and it could be completely useless because all you're doing is just thinking and thinking and thinking about tomorrow and next week and what you have to do, a month from now. It's wasted time. It's a wasted hour. If you had 5 solid minutes of being in the moment, being alert and aware, and trying to communicate and feel your guides around you, asking your guides questions, trying to feel the answers, trying to feel their presence, that's great. That's great. So try to pick some mundane activities where you're alert and in the moment. Driving is a good one. Housework is good. Any kind of artwork where you're not having to think about it, where you're just kind of in the doing and you're just kind of letting your mind kind of be open. That's a perfect time to invite your guides in. And it is really just a matter of doing that, just inviting them in. Invite your guides in. Invite your family member in to just be with you. And then that will give you a chance to open that door every day, which is that's the point of it, of doing any kind of meditation, is opening that door and starting that flow and getting used to your guides, your spirit friends and family being around so that you can feel them when they are there. One of the things you can do is just try to feel their presence. Ask them to come in, to come close to you, and then during the activity, just try to feel or sense their presence. You might pick up more than you think. You might pick up, physical cues, chills, dizziness, a ringing in the ears is a common one. You might pick things up that you just didn't notice before. So not having time and not being able to concentrate, with that tip alone, you can kill those 2 birds with 1 stone. Do both and do it in a quick way, but also a very effective way. I get so many of my messages for my YouTube channel when I'm cleaning, when I'm driving. I get a lot of spirits just popping in when I'm cleaning and when I'm driving, because I've made that a time that they know I am reachable. Okay. So opening that door when you can, when you're alert, not really thinking, but in a doing kind of activity that allows you to just kind of do and not really think about it. It also is a little bit easier because you can just kind of get lost in the activity. Just kind of watch your hand go, right and left as you're cleaning the floor, and just kind of get absorbed in that and wait for your guides to come in. Any kind of cleaning is really good for that, because there is a lot of repetitive motion involved, which is great. That's perfect for meditating, for meditative activity. So try it. And hopefully that will help you with those 2 very, very common problems, okay? So I want to say a little thing about trust and faith before we get started with our exercises. Trust and faith seem to be the missing ingredients for a lot of people. We've already talked about them, but I want you to keep them in mind as you go forward doing these exercises, because the more open you are to receive, the more uncluttered your mind is with doubt and worry and anything else that can come in. It will keep you clear and open for that moment when you feel you think you've got something, or you feel something, or you are feeling that connection all of a sudden through one of the many abilities that people have. When you feel that, you're able to kind of isolate that moment, and it's a great validation. That's the validation you're looking for, is that aha, like, I think that was something. That's the moment you're waiting for. And when you are trusting and open and you have faith in the process, you will be much more likely to get to that moment. And then when you get that moment, trust it. That is going to give you the greatest validation you could possibly have, okay? So let's move into exercise number 1. Okay, so our first exercise is called Yes, No, and It's Up to You. So what we're going to do first is we're going to ask for protection from our guides. You can ask, God and your angels, whoever, source energy, the universe, to protect you. And I usually ask for a covering of white light of protection. I ask my guides to come close to me and to be with me throughout the process, throughout the reading. And I ask for only spirits and loved ones of good intention to come through. That's what I do. You need to come up with something that feels right to you. Some people like to burn sage, and sometimes I do. It just depends. If I feel like I'm dealing with heavier readings or heavier subject matters, I'll burn some sage. It just kind of clears the air of any kind of negativity, so I can just feel like I can just let it flow. But you need to choose something in your prayer of protection that you feel works for you. We all come from different backgrounds and different belief systems. And the main thing is that you need to have the intention that you are asking for protection and that you will get it. So whether that is a long drawn out prayer and a whole, production, that is up to you. If it's something very short and very quick, that's my style. So that's what I do. And also any kind of grounding that you can do beforehand is great. Grounding just means that you feel very centered. You feel, you don't feel up in your head, nervous, worried, something that anchors you and makes you feel connected to your center. Whether that is a quick meditation or a quick prayer or calling in your angels, anything like that that makes you feel really centered and grounded, like you know exactly what you're going to be doing. Going over things that are your deepest beliefs. I know my guides love me. I know that, I am protected by spirit, things like that can help you grounded. Some people say, I ask my guides to ground me to 100%, something like that. Whatever you feel works for you, whatever feels right to you, do that. It can be something long, it can be something short, but I do recommend some kind of prayer of just protection and kind of an opening. I'm ready to open and I need protection to be around me so that I can be open without fear, okay? So say a quick prayer protection or a long prayer protection, light a candle, light sage, whatever you need to do to get started. And we're going to start with this exercise. Yes, no, it's up to you. So what we're going to do is we're going to ask spirit. It can be a family member, a friend that has passed, a relative that has passed, or it can be your spirit guides. You're going to ask a question that you know that the answer is yes, okay? A good one to ask is, do you love me? That's a perfect one to ask. So ask your guides, ask your family members. The other thing to ask is, will you be here for me? Will you answer my questions? All of those things are going to be yes, because they want to accommodate you. They want to help you. They want to communicate. So what you're going to do is ask the question and then sit quietly and wait for the answer. The answer will come. What you're waiting for is a yes answer. And so you know the answer is yes. You're just waiting to see how they're going to communicate that to you, okay? These are the things you're going to look for, okay? You're going to look for something that is kind of expansive. What I've noticed about yes, the answer yes, is it really is something that kind of expands. No's kind of retract, they go inward, okay? So any kind of imagery that opens up, a flower opening up, a butterfly, things like that, that is usually the answer yes. Something that's closed down, you know, a storm cloud, a something in its shell, you know, a turtle going into its shell, something that's more closed and closing down, that is going to be a no. So those might be, think of the visuals that might entail. And then sounds also, sounds that are open, a bell ringing, you know, that rings out. You know, other sounds might, or you could literally get a yes or a no. But the sounds could be like a bell ringing, and a no could be some kind of, you know, a low, some kind of low sound. Because I think of yes as being kind of higher and low as being kind of no. So that's another way you can receive messages. And I'm just giving you some. I mean, there are a myriad of ways you can receive these answers, but the main thing to know is that the answer is going to be yes. So you're going to see how your guides and how spirit communicates a yes to you. It could be something physical too. When my spirit guides want to communicate that I've gotten something right and I'm right on the nose, they give me chills. It'll tell me that I'm on the right track. It tells me what I just said was absolutely correct. It will tell me, it will validate something for me. So that's always a yes when I get chills. When I get no, sometimes it can feel like a feeling of dread, or it comes more in a feeling, or it might be like kind of lower in my stomach, like a drop in the stomach. That tells me no. So look for those physical cues as well, but then look for the emotions too. A yes might feel really happy and like I said, kind of expansive. A no might feel recoiled or coming in. You know, sadness, depressed. You know, any of those kind of lower level emotions, those lower vibration emotions, that's what you're kind of looking for a no. And it will be very subtle. It will be very, very subtle. It will, and again, it will feel like you, but you're in a quiet and kind of waiting and open state so that you can feel it. And you can know that's what it is. And what happens is that when you realize it, you acknowledge it, they'll do it again. They'll do it again because they realize, okay, that's the way to get through. That's the way to get through, yes or no. So ask your yes question first. Then you're going to ask a question that you know that the answer is no, okay? Should I go and jump off a bridge? The answer is going to be no. No, you shouldn't. But you can ask anything that you think the answer is no. Will you leave me? No. Your guides will never leave you. So the answer will be no. Okay, so, and that's the same thing as what you're looking for is those no responses, those closed down, more lower level, those images that give that same kind of feeling. You're going to look at that as well. And if you get the image of, say, a butterfly for yes and a turtle going in its shell for no, it doesn't mean that you'll always get those for yes and no, but at least you know that it's clairvoyant. You'll get a clairvoyant response, because sometimes it'll be an enthusiastic yes, so it'll be something really big like fireworks or something, but at least you know it's going to be a clairvoyant response. They can get to you that way. That's an easy way to get to you. So now they know, and they'll do it again and again and again. Okay. Now, the confusing one is it's up to you. And you don't have to ask a question to experience this one. But what I'll tell you is that when you're asking something that it really doesn't matter, yes or no, it really is up to you. It really is of no consequence. So, for example, should I go to the store tomorrow? it could be that it's of no consequence, so it's kind of up to you. And in that case, you might get something like scales in your mind. You know, you might get something kind of whatever. You might get something that feels kind of neutral. It doesn't really feel like anything. That could be your response. And you know, I get that response for people a lot, because sometimes what they're asking, it is up to them. For example, if they're asking about maybe moving into a new area of work, or asking for a promotion or something, it's kind of like, you can if you want to. You know, they're never going to make you do something. So when there's a question that it's just like, yes, you know, do it for the experience. This is, you know, good. They'll give you a yes. If they really don't think it's a good idea, or they think that there's an easier way, they might give you a no, but there is the chance they'll say, it's up to you. You know, it really is up to you. And you might get kind of a, not a bad feeling, but not really a great feeling. So that I would take as, it's up to you. And what I would tell you is that in this exercise, know they're going to tell you something. So know that if you, depending on what you're asking, if the answer could be it's up to you, you might get that response, okay? In this exercise, that's why we're starting with yes and no. Definite yes questions, definite no questions. And when you're asking as just on a daily basis, you know, should I do this? Should I do that? Just know that sometimes the answer may be, it's up to you. And so, or we really can't say yet, you know, that kind of thing. It could be kind of a neutral response, and that can be a response. Okay, so just be prepared for that, and just know that if, geez, I always get yes or no, I'm not getting anything, just know that that might be, is up to you. Okay, all right, so let's move on to our exercise number 2. Okay, so our exercise number 2 is a exercise that I love. It's called layers. And what you're going to do is you're going to explore the layers of energy in a room. You can use a room in your house, or you can go somewhere. You can go to a historical place is great. Even outdoors, it's okay to do, but usually when you're in a room, it's a little bit clearer. But you can use, as long as the outdoor space is something that would have a lot of energy, like a cemetery, or a place where a battle took place, or, you know, some kind of historical event. But museums are really good. But really, there isn't a limit to what kind of room it can be. It can be someplace that's, it doesn't have to be even a quiet room. It's a really fun exercise to do, and you can do it anywhere. You can do it in your own home. The only thing I would say is that make sure that it's a place that you can be not disturbed. So people wouldn't be coming up to you like at work, you know, people might be coming up to you. But if you can go to a place where you can kind of be not disturbed, it's okay if there's noises around, that's okay. Because what you're doing is you're feeling the energy. So you're trying to feel the different layers of energy in a room. The energy can be in a room because of many different things. One is emotions. So if there were some heavy emotional events or emotions that happened in the room, that could be something that can make a room have a layer of energy. Another thing is the actual objects in the room. Nikola Tesla thought that objects carried actual kind of spirit energy inside of them. And that is something that is practiced in psychometry, when you put your hands on an object and you can kind of feel the energy of the object. And so objects in the room will also have energy attached to them. So what you're asking is, again, do your prayer of protection, do your prayer, your opening prayer, and then ask your guides to give you a sense of the energy in the room. And so you're going to just kind of be open to whatever comes in. What you're going to do, it's such a fun exercise. What you're going to do, and again, make sure you're not going to be disturbed, so you can at least be sitting for at least a few minutes. You're going to notice any thoughts, memories, pictures that come into your mind, anything that comes into your mind's ear, words, sounds, smells, anything that comes across you, cigar smoke or whatever, anything like that. You're going to also um, notice any physical things, and aches or pains, or a headache, or dizziness, or chills, anything like that. You're going to want to notice, and we'll go into why in just a second. And any kind of emotional things, feelings, any kind of warmth in the chest, or warmth in the throat, or pit in the stomach, anything like that happens, that's kind of emotional, or feelings, or physical in the body. But then also any of your clairs that might perk up. And then also your knowing, kind of, I just know there's some kind of spirit energy here. I just know that there's some um, kind of a sad energy here. That knowing as well, that kind of just instinct that you have. And what you're going to do is take note as you're going. And this is an exercise that you can kind of think, because you're going to be taking note of every single little thing that comes up. And then you're going to, after the exercise, after you're done feeling all you can feel in the room, you're going to write it all down. Every single little thing, okay? And then what you're going to do is go through your list. And it can be a very long list, or it can be, 10 things, but you're going to go through each one and look at how it could be correlated, or how it can be matched with the room that you're in. Okay, so let's say that you get a memory of your grandmother. For some reason, your grandmother just kind of pops in, and you think, okay, well, how could this room be correlated with my grandmother? Okay, my grandmother has never been in this room because this is a new house, and she passed away before we lived here. But you know what? I've got her chair sitting over here. So notice all of the ways that with thoughts that came in, the things that came in, even if it feels disjointed at first, look at it and try to make it stretch to the room that you're in. And what this is going to do is show you exactly how spirit can communicate, and how it can be very, very subtle, and also be kind of things that you miss, things that you didn't realize in the moment, and how interesting it is how your 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 physical self, your tool that you're using of yourself, can pick up on the energies even of the past. They can pick up energies of people. It is incredible. It's an incredibly fun exercise. And sure, there are going to be some things where it's like, oh, that's kind of a stretch, I don't know about that. That's fine. There'll be things that are probably are a little disjointed, but most of it you'll be shocked at how spot on it is. And what this does is, it really is an exercise of trust. This is really trusting yourself to know, because somewhere you know, and it will really show you that, okay, I am really more plugged in than I thought I was, because this means this, and I made this connection with this thing, and that's so weird because I forgot that this is in this drawer. And it will be really incredible for you to see all of the ways that you can that you have inside of yourself, for knowing things that you just didn't think you knew. And also being able to read energy. It is a really, really fun thing to do. And the more you can do it, if you are a reader, the better reader you will be. But also the more, if you are not a reader and you're just getting answers for yourself or for your family, it will be a way of realizing, okay, I can pick up on things. I really do. Kind of somewhere inside, I know somewhere inside, there's that part of me that just is very tuned in and knows. So it's a fun exercise. Be as open, have as much fun with it as you possibly can. You can choose any room in your house, or you can choose a place you've never been to. Either one works, because it doesn't really matter. It's really fun to see all the stuff that comes in, okay? The main thing to remember, though, is to write down absolutely everything that you think you feel, you felt, images, memories, names, people, places, things, everything that comes through, all of the feelings, all of the physical feelings, the knowing. Let it all just kind of spill out onto the page, and then go through item by item. You will be shocked at what comes out of this exercise, okay? Okay, so this last and third exercise is called the conversation. And this is a really fun one as well. And it can be quite an emotional one. So it really is for those of you who really want to connect with family members and friends on the other side. It can also be a great way to connect with guides. So it kind of covers all the bases, but it is particularly good at connecting with family and friends. And what you're going to do is sit quietly and again, say your prayer of protection and ask your family member or friend to come in. And what you're going to do is you're going to start having a conversation with them. You're going to be asking the questions and answering how you think they would have answered, and just guessing how they would have answered. You can also do this with your guides. Talk to them, ask them a question, and then wait for them to respond, and give them their response. Think of how would they respond? How do you think they would respond? And keep the conversation going. Go as long as you can. What you're going to notice is that sometimes the answers are there before you get to them. What you will notice is that, that's a weird thing for me to know. How did I know that? That sounds just like them. How did I get that? What you're going to notice is that throughout the conversation, you're going to realize that you're actually getting the information from them. And what this shows you is how easy it is to get information from spirit and what it feels like. It does feel like you, and yet it's not you. It's kind of like, how would I know that? Why would I say that? You're going to notice a consciousness enter. It may take a little while, and that's why the conversation goes on, because somewhere in there you'll start to feel it change. You'll start to feel the responses come more easily, and you'll think, that's really strange. Why did I know? Or why would I think they would say that? That's so funny. That sounds just like them, or that's something that they would have joked about. I've completely forgot about that. What you'll notice is that the conversation will change. The only thing I can say about this exercise is that, first of all, be as open as you can to the experience, and trust that your guides will be there to guide you and to help you and protect you through this process. The other thing I want to say about this is that it can be quite emotional, because a lot of times, when your loved one is actually there and you are starting to feel them, even if you're in the mode of answering, asking the questions to yourself, kind of, you might start to feel them be present and feel them be part of the conversation. And it will be a very emotional thing, especially if you haven't felt them in a long time. So be ready for that as well. And then start to notice the little things, the other little things that happen. You might feel a, uh, a physical feeling, again, like chills or ringing in the ears or a little bit of lightheadedness. You might feel something that feels warm. You might feel like somebody touches you or hugs you. It might feel like a hug of energy. Usually it's very, very, very rare to see something with your own eyes, to hear something with your own ears. It can happen. And once in a while it will happen. But I think I've said before, I think I've actually seen something with my own eyes twice. I think I've only heard something with my own ears like twice. In all of the readings and everything that I've done, usually it's my mind's eye, my mind's ear. But the emotions and things like that, those can feel very real because you're feeling the emotion. So it's just kind of it's not really a a warning. It's just something to be aware of, that you may get emotional. It may be kind of emotional for you because you may not have felt these spirits around in this way in a long time. The other reason that this particular exercise really works is that you are kind of being open in a different way, because you're accepting the fact that, okay, I'm asking and I'm answering and it's fun and I know what's happening. That also gives you an anchor. And by that I mean that your mind isn't allowed to fly all over the place and go to tomorrow's dinner and, I got to exercise later and those kinds of things. What's going to happen is you're going to be very anchored and locked into the conversation. And so that does give your mind a chance to receive information. When you are in meditation, a lot of times people will tell you to do a mantra of some kind, or a repetition of words, peace, love, and happiness. That gives your mind an anchor so that it's not just flying around everywhere. You're thinking with your mind, so you're keeping it busy. And that's another thing that this exercise does really beautifully, is it keeps you kind of anchored, but it also keeps you very present. And that's exactly the state that you need to be in to receive information from spirit. So this is a very effective, it can be emotional, but it's a very, very interesting and very effective exercise to be able to connect with loved ones. And what I would tell you is that if you feel like you weren't sure what you felt the first time, accept it and say, thank you for coming. Thank you for being here. I'm going to try again tomorrow, and do it and keep doing it. Especially if you feel like, I felt something. I'm not really sure what I felt, but I felt something. Continue it. Continue that conversation. This is something you can do every day, every week. You can do it as much as you want, especially if you're missing someone. It helps you to kind of channel and open up your grief, because when it's always a good idea to give some time between the death of someone and then the time you're connecting with them. It's usually a 2 or 3 months is what we usually say. But once that little time has passed, and even if you're still grieving, it does give you a way to kind of channel your grief into something that can allow them to come through. Grief is a very, very heavy veil for loved ones to come through. You're very closed off when you're in grief. You're very closed down, and it's like penetrating a wall. It's really, really difficult. So this allows an opening, because you're opening up in a way that, and anchoring your mind in a way that gives them a chance to come through. So I hope that that is a very effective and meaningful exercise for you to do. And it would be a really good idea too, to connect with people that you know very well, even if it's like a celebrity, that you kind of know about them, so that you can kind of at the beginning answer for you and for them. Have fun with these exercises, because the spirit wants you to find joy in what you're doing. It's not this kind of serious, melancholy kind of thing. It should be a joyful, fun, exciting experience, because you're connecting to your loved ones. You're connecting to the other side, and you'll be able to do it whenever you want to, whenever you need to. You can do it. These exercises will show you that. It will show you not only to kind of how to open up in a trusting and faithful way, but it will show you how much you can pick up on when you just allow yourself to be open and to be willing to receive the information. Okay, so have fun with all of those 3 exercises, and really, really, explore and really just allow spirit to help you develop your gifts in a joyful, fun way. Okay, so the last thing I want to talk about is kind of my last tip, but also something that can help you in not only in connecting with spirit, but also in manifestation. It's gratitude. And the reason that gratitude works, and Eckhart Tolle talks about this a lot. He's one of my favorite spiritual teachers, and I quote him all the time. But one reason that he says appreciation works when it comes to manifesting is because appreciation, it expands your heart and your mind so that you can receive more. And so what I would tell you is that's so, so true in connecting with spirit, because what I have found is that even if you think you may have maybe gotten a message, just say thank you. Say thank you. Always end your exercises, always end your the time that you share with spirit with gratitude, a thank you. Thank you for being here. Thank you for being with me. Thank you for trying to communicate with me. Thank you for giving me answers. Thank you. Because what that does is it keeps that flow going, that back and forth. It makes so much sense to me that it expands your heart and mind so that you can receive more. Because what will happen is when you end in gratitude, they're anxious to give you more. They're anxious to keep giving you what you're seeking, what you're searching for, because you are grateful. It means something to be grateful. So I hope that you're able to end every session and every exercise with gratitude for whoever has shown up or tried to show up. Just thank them for being there. Thank you. Thank them for giving you the answers, even if you're not sure in that moment if you got them. Just say thank you. It really does keep the flow going. It opens that door. It keeps you open to the experience. So I want to end this with gratitude. Gratitude for you for allowing me to spend this time with you. And I think that some of these things I've touched on in the other, in little ways, in the other 3 classes. Part of that is by design. When I channel these classes, I'm constantly asking my guides, I said that before, should I repeat it? Repeat it. Repeat it. They need to hear it again. So anything that I've repeated, it's been by design. It's been because I've been told to repeat it, that you need to hear it again. So just know that that's what's happening. So if you're hearing it, if you think, oh, I think she said that before, I did. I did. But it bears repeating because it's important. And spirit may feel like that maybe it wasn't as pronounced in the other class as it should have been. So if you're hearing some of these things again, just know that that is the way it's channeled to me, and that's the way I deliver it to you. But again, I want to thank you for allowing me to be your guide on this journey, and good luck. Let me know how it goes, and give me your feedback on the classes. I would love it. And if you want to go back and take the other 3 classes, they are on intuitiview.com. You can read about them, decide if they're for you, and take them. And I will be putting out another class in another few months. They take a while to put together, but I will put out another one. And thank you so much. Bye.